Thank you for watching another episode of the Boat Geeks. If you are liking what you're finding here at our channel, please hit the thumbs up below.
And please like and subscribe so you don't miss a future episode.
Absolutely. And you can comment too. Feel free to comment.
Yeah, we love to hear what you think.
Thank you.
But no, it was a really crazy experience.
I bet.
All the people coming out to us while we were racing.
Yeah.
You know, people would come deliver food to us, just like we didn't know who they were. They were just like, we've been following along, like in
so
planes
cool.
buzzing by and helicopters.
Yeah.
Like, it was really, really, really
That
cool.
must have been wild.
It was wild. Yeah. And we did it in like almost exactly 5 days. So yeah.
What place?
First.
You won.
We were the
first.
We were the first to ever win the
Dude.
race in Alaska.
We have
I had no idea.
You're more celebrity than I thought.
I was waiting to
That's
hear
I know.
who overtook you.
Yeah.
No.
Well, congratulations.
I've never
man.
met a winner of the R2AK.
I know. That's pretty awesome.
This is awesome, man.
Yeah.
Just elevated this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From beautiful Port Townsend, Washington, a Victorian seaport on the Salish Sea, and recorded aboard the motor vessel Traveler. It's the Boat Geeks with Darren and Daeron.
All right. Welcome to this next episode of the Boat Geeks. I am your host, Darren.
And I'm your other host, Darren.
And our guest today, you can find them on their YouTube channel at the Duracell Project. Our guest with his wife, Janneke, are refitting and restoring a legendary race boat known as Duracell. And I say known as, we'll get to that later. They have over 2 years of weekly videos featuring specific boat projects, regular updates on how everything's going, what's coming up next. Over 120 videos, over 80,000 subscribers. Videos regularly get on the channel upwards of 100,000 plus views, with your top video receiving over 1.3 million views. And I think you just crossed a threshold of 10 million views on your channel.
Yeah.
In just 2 years.
In just 2 years.
That's incredible.
And you've been featured in magazines such as 48 Degrees North, Cruising World, Professional Boat Builder, Sail, and more. Our guest today, Matt Steverson, Shipwright by trade, and one of 50% of the Duracell Project with Janneke, and the community that's helping you.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. So, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're
Excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you here. I did do a crash course on your channel and what you've been up to, read a few of the articles, and wow, what a project.
Yeah.
I mean, to say a project, right? Now, you're a shipwright by trade. Is that, are you doing Duracell Project full time now? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, we started it. We got the boat in June of 2021 and then started really working on it in earnest probably in September. And I worked for the next like 6 months, like on weekends on Duracell, and then during the week on my own. Like I had a boat maintenance business. And I think by May or June the next year, I had stopped doing my maintenance business and was just working on Duracell full time.
Wow.
So,
yeah. Because you wanted to be able to finish it within 20 years.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the whole goal, the whole thing was a big kind of risk to
for sure.
start the YouTube channel and just to be able to pay for the project. And that was the goal, is so that I could work on it full time. That was the whole goal. Because, yeah, you're right. Otherwise, it would be nights and weekends and taking 20 years. And also, we wouldn't have the opportunity to use I feel like we're doing a real high end build now, whereas before I would have been scrounging in the dumpsters at the boatyard, begging for excess materials and everything to get the boat done. But
when you say that, though, it makes me think of how many boat projects are there out around the country where people
just in Port Townsend.
Just in Port Townsend, right?
Because people can only work on the weekends or in the evenings, and boats languish. They just sit there for 25 years in some
And
guy's
burnout
yard
is-
in Seattle, right?
Burnout is real.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a real thing.
It's funny when we moved up here from down south in California. I always tell people in California when I'd drive around, I'd see cars in everybody's yards, up on blocks or whatever. Up here, it's boats in everybody's yard. There's a lot of projects, some unfortunately abandoned, but some thriving like yours. And very lucky. Now, I want to get to the history of the boat, but first, we like to ask our guests, because we're the Boat Geeks. We love everything about boats. What do you love about boats? What's your history with boats?
I didn't really start boating until I was in college. I took a sailing course called The Arts of the Sailor, and just was immediately hooked by sailing, like being propelled by the wind and the intricacies. Like, it was immediately apparent to me that you could never stop learning how to do this, and it just seemed it was a very natural fit for me. And then I got into racing, and I was really, really into racing for about 10 years after college, and I was the reason I really liked racing was for the adventure more than anything else. Is I loved going and doing, like, I got to do the Pacific Cup, and I got to do the race to Alaska, and I got to do the Van Isle, and I got to do all kinds of, just local races around here, which the weather was any different way, and
no
the
two
conditions
races are alike.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved that about it. It was so dynamic. And then I got into cruising, living on a boat, and then I realized that I love working on boats too. And no two boats are the same. No two boat projects are the same. And everybody has a different idea about how they want their boat to work. And so,
what was that transition like from being into the racing element, and then how did you discover the whole cruising element? Because they're so different.
I started living on a boat. I was working at a boatyard, and I got a hookup for a liveaboard slip, and I got a 36-foot rough water.
Nice. Yeah.
Great boat, and lived on that for like
a woody or a
no, it's a fiberglass hull with a plywood deck and superstructure. And I started living on it and started doing projects on it and loved it. And from there I got into cruising, and that's how when I met Yanni, one of the first things we did was we went up and spent 6 weeks in the San Juans, and both of us were like, "Oh my God, this is like the coolest thing we've ever done."
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's cool.
Yep.
That's very cool. So now, obviously, the boat formerly known as Duracell. I don't know if you've chosen a name yet. I did see your video that was put out a few months ago regarding some potential names. We'll get to that. But this boat has you guys say storied past. I would agree with that. It has an extensive history. One of which crosses over with our previous guest, Bruce Schwab, and he had mentioned the original designer and builder, right, was Mike.
Mike didn't design it. He built it though.
Okay.
It was designed by Roger Martin. Roger Martin designed all three of Mike's boats: Airco, Duracell, and then Coyote. Okay. And Roger Martin's an incredible designer. I'm sure you've seen other boats of his, like the Aerodynes, and there's a boat around here called Gray Wolf. That's his design. But he's got many, many designs that are very popular. Mike Plant built the boat with other folks as well, but he was, there for the whole project. And there's a great book that his sister wrote. She talks about how much he hated boat building, but Roger Martin, like being around the whole project, said he was really good at it. And so that was when we first learned about the boat. I was working with a guy who knew Roger Martin, and so he put me in touch with him, and I actually got to go out. I was doing deliveries out on the East Coast, and
right on.
I got to go to Newport, and he pulled out all the files, and we went through all the drawings and everything together, and he let me make copies. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really, really fun, but it gave me a lot of confidence in the boat itself because Roger talked about how good of a job Mike did in putting the boat together. So
which he needed to because he put that boat through its paces, or all the owners did over the years. So Mike's he was the first American to participate in the first, how do you pronounce it?
Vendée
Globe, yeah.
Vendée Globe, thank you. I wasn't going to say it wrong. And so, I mean, that's pretty significant as far as that boat's history. That's a huge deal. And then under a new owner and renamed Northwest Spirit, she sailed in and won the Pan Pacific West race, and then had some troubles at sea, and was basically on the hard for 25 years before you purchased her.
Yeah, totally. He had done a ton of sailing with the boat. He brought it from the East Coast, went across the Pacific a couple times, and then was always planning. His dream was always to do a circumnavigation, nonstop solo circumnavigation. And unfortunately got cut short. And he lost the rig and put the boat in his backyard, and, things get in the way. Life gets he had a very successful business and started a family, and these things happen. So
common story.
Yeah, exactly.
And how was it you found out? You read something that he posted?
Yeah, he put a post on Sailing Anarchy just saying that he had put the boat on the for sale ads on Sailing Anarchy, but then wrote a post saying, I have this boat, it's awesome. And I don't think I can take the project on anymore. I've gotten too old, and we're open to any ideas that anybody has. And so I saw it and I immediately emailed him, and it took us a couple years. We learned about the boat in September 2019, and then it wasn't put in our yard until June 2021. So COVID got in the way, a few other things, and so
putting that boat into your yard. Oh my goodness! First of all, what was the name of that trucking company?
Associated.
They are so good.
Yeah,
I think
they're really, really good.
The driver was impressive.
I think I've seen them moving somebody else's boat in locally in videos as well. You had at one point the clearance on the side of your house.
Yeah, I worked that company. They're kind of the only gig in town.
Yeah,
and but they're extremely professional.
Sure.
And Val, the guy that drove the truck, he actually lives in Port Hadlock.
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
And he works some other jobs in town, and I see him every once in a while, and he's always really excited to get to move the boat out of the yard when it's done. But they're really, really good. I used to work with them I used to set up the boat show in Seattle with CSR, and they get hired to drive the travel lifts and bring the trucks in and stuff, and park those boats an inch from each other in there. It was really fun.
Highly professional. Exactly. If you do check out the channel, which I recommend you do, go back to second video, and you can see this insane job that these guys do. Highly skilled. So one of my thoughts when I started watching your channel, as I mentioned before we started recording, I was looking at you back at the beginning and wondering how things have changed in the 2+ years. Obviously you had a mindset 2+ years ago, what you thought was going to happen, how you thought it was going to happen, what speed it was going to happen. What have you learned over this time that kind of has changed your perspective, or, what has the last 2+ years been like in terms of your motivations, your drive, your understanding how the project is moving forward?
Well, when we got into it, I would say that we had no idea if the whole YouTube thing was going to work. And that would be a big factor in how the project went, is how well the YouTube channel did. And so at the beginning, like I said, I was just I had all my drawings and everything together, and I had an idea of how I was going to put the boat together. And so we just started, and I guess at the I didn't know how much it was going to cost. I didn't know how long it would take or anything like that. And
it's just a big leap of faith, right?
It was a big leap of faith. It's a hard question to answer, but
sure.
once the YouTube thing started, that becomes like such a great motivator.
Oh yeah.
Because we have to get content done every week. We have to show that we've got something done, make the video interesting. And so we've learned how to, make good progress every week, which I think is extremely important. And then, doing our best to leverage the audience that we have as far as because there's a lot of people out there watching that know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about when it comes to comments and stuff, but there's lots of people that have really good contributions, which we try to leverage. There's, your
bowsprit.
Yeah, exactly. Though we have this engineer, naval architect who reached out to us really early, and he's done so much for our channel. And that not only makes the boat better, but it makes the channel much more interesting to people, and gives us legitimacy and credibility. And so, people like him make the project more interesting and better, the boat better. And so, and there's tons of those people from Total Boat to my mom, who comes on all the time and is a huge help, and people love to see her on the channel. And so
that's awesome.
It's
shout out to your mom.
Yeah, shout out to mom.
But you didn't
Couldn't
know
do without her.
You didn't know you would have so many people actually helping you.
Yeah, that's
wonderful.
That was I think the biggest thing that we learned was that we were not expecting all the help and all the encouragement that we get. That's it was, the internet is such a scary place, and
you never know how you're going to be received.
Exactly. And we still get plenty of hate, but that's only less than 1% of all the encouragement that we get.
They're the loudest ones usually. I love the community aspect of it. And I live vicariously through many YouTube channels and creators, doing things that I may never get the opportunity to do myself.
This episode of the Boat Geeks is sponsored by The Boater's Guide, a free app for Pacific Northwest boaters. The Boater's Guide is adventure and information, right at your fingertips, right when you need it. Find your happy place with The Boater's Guide, a free download on your phone or tablet in the App Store and Google Play.
Do you feel like with this, because now you have Patreon, which you can find all this information at their YouTube channel, at the Duracell Project, all the ways to support and get involved. But do you feel like these Patreons are like a board of directors that are keeping you in line and moving, or do you feel it's much more of a supportive community that what is it? I'm sure that added a little bit of pressure in terms of, now you have to deliver.
Sure.
Which not that your intention was to not deliver.
Right.
But what is it like having that group of supporters behind you?
I would say our relationship with each of them is different. Some of them are much more vocal, and whether it's just commenting or emailing us and asking questions, and we love all of it. It's really, it would feel strange to us to not have any kind of relationship with these people that are encouraging us so much and giving us money.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, every relationship is different. At the beginning, I think we felt like there was extra pressure to deliver for them, but now we're just in the groove and we understand what we can get out every week. And I think people, the expectations are set. And so, we try to make that happen. We try to get a little bit better every week with our editing and content creation and stuff like that. And so they've never given us any kind of extra. They've never asked for anything, which is that's the craziest part to us, is that we're not giving them anything other than these videos. And they don't need to pay for them. They just decide to do it. And it's the most heartwarming thing ever. So
it's interesting, the people being involved like that. Do you feel like they're involved because of the history of the boat, or do you feel like they're involved because they want to see you and Janneke succeed? Do you think they're involved because of both? I get involved with stuff like that. Obviously the historic aspect is important, and nobody likes to see boats get broken up or
Right.
whatever, and history is super important and interesting and vital to, to us as humans, is just knowing our history and the history of the stuff around us. But I also love to see people succeed. I love to, the idea that you and Janneke just stepped off this cliff and said, we're going to try and make this happen. And it's happening is astonishing. And, like,
I think it has a lot to do with personality as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
you guys have great personality for sure.
Don't take this wrong, but you're not a professional on-camera actor.
Yeah.
You're a real guy,
Yeah.
but you have passion and you're helping people learn what you're doing. So that element is, I think, what makes you so successful. The boat, the history is great. The projects are great, but you and Yanni, you guys have, you have that it thing, I think.
Thank you.
He's like, I know.
I think you both answered the question that there's lots of reasons why people decide to support the channel and watch, and we get tons of comments from people saying that they're learning a lot, which is another thing that I did not expect in going into this, was that,
be educational.
It would be educational.
Totally is so.
Yeah, we get lots of those comments, and plenty of people sign up because they were like, "Oh yeah, I remember watching Mike Plant when I was growing up, or I grew up in Minnesota at the same yacht club that he was in, or whatever." Plenty of people that are into like hot cruising boats, and they just want to see a cool cruising boat out there, and I like to think that plenty of people just because they like us.
Yeah.
So.
A spectrum. So we like to ask and answer our own questions.
Well, and another element is just the progression element. I mean, you stripped this boat. It was just the hull, as it was referred to way back, right?
Yeah.
And so you have talk about, before and afters are pretty popular, and you have got this incredible before and after project.
Yeah.
And I think people really like just following the progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And right now we're feeling like, the boat is, the project is still in the construction phase. I'm still doing tons of fiberglass work. And, I think there is a bit of fatigue when it comes to those kinds of things, but it is nice because the view changes a lot, from week to week. But people, I think, do get bored with the fiberglass stuff too. So, but I think as we get deeper into the project, as we get done with the fiberglass work and start doing, systems installations and working on the keel and working on the rig and
welding aluminum fuel tanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a great video.
It's it's just going to get more and more interesting, I think. So,
but the fact that you have this many viewers, this many videos, this many viewers, this much support, and it's pretty much been almost all fiberglass work.
Yeah.
Is a lot. That's saying a lot.
I know.
And I think what it means is that you have a great future ahead. Do you guys plan to continue creating content when you're out there cruising?
We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do feel like we'll owe it to those who've watched and supported us that we will definitely spend lots of time once the boat's in the water, just going out, like seeing how it works. And there will be plenty of content of me breaking stuff on the boat, and so and putting it through its paces, and
a shakedown cruise.
We don't feel like we have the personalities for like a lifestyle channel, and we're not really interested in doing that kind of thing.
Well,
anyway.
and you don't have to do weekly videos once you finish the project.
Yeah, exactly.
Every month or two you can upload something.
Yeah, exactly. And we definitely want to continue something. We just haven't decided what that's going to be yet. So
I have a feeling there'll be quite a lot of people that, would like some kind of update of what you've been up to out there. And how much you're enjoying.
We're not going to go cold turkey and just shut it off. But there'll be
how
something.
How has this affected? I'm sure you get recognized in various places you go now. It's like, hey, you're the Project Duracell guy, right?
It does happen sometimes, for sure. So, but but it's the weirdest thing ever. I'll get recognized for this thing, the internet.
So we mentioned community involvement. I brought up the bowsprit. You've had the community involved somewhat since the beginning. In I'm sure there's comments in your videos and so forth that you've like you said, there's some people that really know what they're talking about. A lot of people that don't. How else besides the bowsprit and even with the bowsprit, how did the community get involved, and how did you decide, hey, this is a great idea, I'm going to implement that in the boat? Did you intentionally seek out community involvement, or was it an idea that somebody put forward and you thought, hey, we'll do this, and then that seemed to work and you've done it a couple times at least?
No, before we ever started the YouTube channel, we always knew that was a good way to progress the project and get the algorithm working, and just make for a better boat.
Yeah.
I knew, like, from watching Tally Ho and stuff like that there are tons of sailors that love to watch this kind of stuff, people that know what they're talking about. And so, no, that was always an idea we had, like, from the beginning, to involve the community however we could. And we didn't know what that was going to look like.
Yeah. If
it was just going to be comments coming in under the videos, or we didn't know that people were going to be emailing us, and like, you'll get pages and pages of emails about, for that one person will write about all their ideas and stuff like that. It's really nice of them to spend all that time thinking about our project and stuff. But to answer your question, yes, from the very beginning, we wanted to involve the community. We just didn't know what that was going to look like.
Didn't know how it was going to exist. Yep. Yeah. What is the name of the naval, did you say architect or engineer?
Yeah, his name is Evan.
Evan.
Yep. And he's what he does now is he's a naval architect for a tugboat company, but in the past he's worked for Far Yacht Design doing like America's Cup boat stuff. So, and he is a circumnavigator himself. He fixed up a catamaran and took his family cruising.
Nice. For
like 7-8 years, something like that.
So some real world experience, and obviously knows the software.
Right.
It seemed like a big step forward when he came aboard.
It was a huge step forward. And something I've also learned is that, I think, like we talked about earlier, everybody has a different idea of how they want their boat to work, different philosophy for how, they envision different philosophy for how their boat should work.
Right.
And his philosophies and mine are very similar to each other.
That's
and
good.
So that was really apparent immediately, that he knew how to construct things simply, not too many bells and whistles, but make it work really well, very functional. And so, I really appreciate his mindset when it comes to like putting projects together. So, and we have a lot of projects in the works right now between the mast and the keel and stuff like that. So there's plenty more coming from Evan. Yeah.
So you mentioned all the fiberglass work. Is there anything specific that's coming up, or not? It doesn't have to be necessarily in the very near future, but something. Is there a project that you are super looking forward to yourself? Something you're like, I'm done doing all this fiberglass, although you probably won't ever be done. But I really want to do this, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm very excited about most of the projects coming up. Immediately coming up, we're building the salon and the galley, which that will really, really change the interior of the boat. And like from the beginning, when Yanni agreed to do this project, she was like, we can do this, but it's got to have a sweet galley in it. And so I was like, so it's kind of the focal point of the boat. And so once that comes together, it's going to be really fun. And I had a guy out who designs galley or kitchens the other day, and we have some really good ideas about how that's going to come together. So that project is going to be really cool just to see the end product. And then in the future, like in the near future, we're going to be doing a lot of deck stuff, which will be interesting because then we're kind of finishing the exterior of the boat and getting ready to paint. I'm not excited about prepping for paint, but I am excited about seeing the boat painted.
Of course. Yes. The finished.
Yeah, exactly. And then next winter, will be, I think, a big shift in the project where we start doing systems and finish work and stuff like that. And so we're going to be installing propulsion, and batteries, and that's going to be a really, really fun project. We plan on doing a hybrid electric propulsion system, and so it's really, really interesting stuff. I enjoy that stuff way more than fiberglass work.
I bet.
And I really enjoy fiberglass work, and so that's going to be super fun.
Nice.
And installing stuff like steering, and that we're doing keel design now, and so once that project gets going too, that'll be way outside my wheelhouse too. I don't do welding, I don't do lead, but gotta learn.
And I'm assuming you're going to work with somebody local to recast that bottom section of is that still the plan? You're moving it from like 12 feet to 8 feet or something like that?
Yeah, that is the plan.
You're gonna have a bulb.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. We would like to do a bulb. There's a lot writing on what condition the current keel is in, because like that the top third of it is steel.
Yeah.
And so it might be fine. It probably isn't. And so we might need to build a new stub. So there's a lot to figure out there still.
Yeah, that's a heck of a project.
Yeah, for now, we're just trying to figure out, we're just doing the math to see how much weight and how much writing moment we need to install.
You mentioned the decks.
Yeah.
What are you doing for your exterior?
Like the paint?
Well, the surface. How are you? What's your non-skid and?
Oh yeah, well, All Grip is on board, and so we're going to paint the whole boat with All Grip, and so there'll be just All Grip painted on the foredeck and side decks. We'll probably do like a Flexi-Teak style cockpit.
Yeah.
And but it'll be all painted, linear polyurethane paint. So get it all sprayed.
She's gonna be beautiful someday.
Yeah, exactly. We have to extend the shed, so we have to cover the entire boat. So that's going to be a project for the spring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting ready for the painting and keeping all the dust off and
Yep.
the debris. You live out in the woods,
Yep.
and I could right away. I'm like, oh, you're gonna have like
pollen.
things falling off the trees.
Yeah, exactly. There's already the boat is a constant mess on deck because they don't have it covered, and so we're going to be covering the whole thing to keep dust from getting out or getting in.
Right.
So.
Going back to the galley, you mentioned the galley being a focal point. I thought it was really cool how you decided to, and it makes sense to raise that up. Obviously, you need to run some stuff underneath, but also that fit right under the doghouse. You're calling it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I'm tall, I'm 6'2", and so just the idea of that space. Sometimes sailboats can feel a little claustrophobic to me. I loved how that just opened up. That whole design is just super cool. I think that's going to be a really neat galley and a neat area to kind of be up above and kind of see everything.
Yeah, and it's all derived from our old sailboat, Louise, which we're just stretching it. It's pretty much exactly the same layout, just stretched out a bit, and I think it's working out really well. There's a few little changes, like raising up the sole in there, but the ceilings will still be almost 8 feet high when you're in the galley.
60 feet is a big boat.
It is, yeah. But it's a race boat.
Yeah.
And so a 60-foot race boat is a lot different than like an Oyster 60.
Yeah.
They have so much more volume inside. They have 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms and everything. And so that was the appeal of the whole thing to me, was that we can have the length of a 60-foot boat, but have the interior of more like a 40-foot boat with extra width. And so you have tons of space width-wise to make a nice, comfortable interior, but not so big that you're cramming it with tons and tons of systems. And there's lots of room, both forward for storage like sail lockers and stuff like that, and then aft for systems, keeping the engine outside of the living space. And so, it's all, it's going to be a fast, but hopefully still kind of simple. We're trying to keep it simple as best we can.
Well, it's a beautiful design, and you will be, like with all your cruising friends out there, you will always be the first to arrive. I think for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate the cruising speed to be, on a boat like that? What kind of speeds can it reach, or what kind of speeds did it reach back in its heyday?
I think it would it depends on, it totally
Obviously,
depends
a
on
lot of-
how hard you're sailing it,
Yeah.
and we're not going to push nearly as hard as
Sure.
what John and especially I think Mike Plant was like, he
Pushed
did
that to
not,
the limits.
Exactly. He pushed it hard.
Oh, that's racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, if we're consistently getting 200 knot days over and over and over again, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
Which, 8 knots
That's
all day long.
a lot.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. And so I have a good friend, Graham, who you should consider having on your podcast, Graham Essery. Him and his family own Dog Bark. I did the race to Alaska with him, did tons of racing with him. But he's a extremely good sailor. They attempted the Northwest Passage on their Open 60.
Oh, wow.
Probably this is in 2019. I think they tried to do it, and I think they're planning on doing it again this summer or next summer, something like that.
So you said they attempted.
They made it up to the North Slope, and the ice never cleared, so they couldn't go through.
Okay.
So they turned around and went to Hawaii.
What a terrible second.
I know.
Second choice.
Yeah, but they kept a really cool blog, and but so they had an Open 60 from the same generation as our boat,
Nice.
and they converted it to a cruising boat, and
wow.
it's really, really cool. And they never take the first reef out because they've got plenty of power already,
Right.
and they're making 10 knots.
How
no
many
problem.
Open
So,
60 conversions are there? I mean,
it's
that
a good question.
Seems unusual.
I know it is unusual. It's pretty funny that there are 2 in this area.
Yeah.
2, like even that there's 2 Open 60s in this area,
Right.
let alone converting them to cruising boats. And so, but yeah, the Dog Bark was also raced in not the first Vendée Globe, but the BOC in like 91. So they raced in the same race together.
Wow.
But
That's so cool.
yeah, very, very similar boats.
There was a point when I had sailboats, and I was thinking long-term cruising and wanting speed. I thought, a McGregor 65 would be a nice cruising boat. And it's kind of that, the balance between performance and cruising.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you guys are doing is going to blow the socks off of
Yeah.
a McGregor 65.
Well, that boat is like kind of in the same philosophy, I guess, in that it's really long and
Simple.
super narrow.
Yep.
And so very easy to push through the water. And it's interesting whole design for sure.
Yeah.
So
I sailed on one in out at Tampa Bay once, and it was eye-opening.
yeah.
Yeah. That's what got me thinking about it.
Yeah, totally.
So we had Jesse Weigel, race boss for Race to Alaska, on previously.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the Race to
Yeah.
Alaska?
Sure.
I mean, there's got to be some kind of good story there. How could you do the
I
Race to
know.
Alaska without what? So what was your boat? What was your crew? What was your experience?
It was so we sailed on a Farrier designed F-25C. So they're not built by Corsair. They're not home built, but kind of home built.
Like
It's a
kit
trimaran.
boat type. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a different company that built them that were new to boat building.
Right.
But the designs are really, really cool. Super, super fast boat. They're all carbon,
Yeah.
and very Spartan. And we borrowed the boat from a friend. He originally wanted to do the boat, but didn't have time. And so a guy I sailed with a lot, Al Hughes, who built Louise, which was the boat that we cruised on.
Yeah.
And he also owned Dog Bark,
Wow.
the Open 60. He borrowed the boat from Alan and decided to do the Race to Alaska. And this is the first Race to Alaska, 2015.
15.
And I had no idea what I was getting into.
Nobody did really.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And so my job was to do the provisioning for the race and to do all the carbon parts manufacturing. So we had to do a new rudder cassette, and we had to do some kind of oar lock thing to figure out how to row the boat, and a few other projects. And so that was my contribution. And there were 3 of us on board. It was Al and Graham and I, and none of us had ever sailed a trimaran before. And but it was like the perfect boat for the race is what Al figured, because it was great in light air. It would be easy-ish to row. We weren't going into the race to row. We were going to
you wanted the
sail
wind.
and yeah. And we had a crazy crossing to Victoria. We were there by 9 o'clock in the morning. I think we were sitting down for breakfast at like 9:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. It was windy, and we were realizing what we had gotten ourselves into with this boat, how fast it was. And we immediately went to Goodwill and bought ourselves ski goggles and like waterproof everything. We had full dry suits because it was so wet on board. And so we started at noon or whatever on Sunday, and that first afternoon was really gorgeous, sailing up through the Gulf Islands. It was like a light downwind rate sail through the Gulf Islands. We were kind of in spitting distance of first place, as well as there were some really fast boats right behind us, and we figured it was going to be a really close fun race against these. There were the Bird brothers on their Beach Cat, and there was that new Farrier, I think it was a 28R. I can't remember the name of it, but Canadian guys that were really good sailors. Some other really cool boats. Mm-hmm. Oh, there was the Paul Beaker's design, the Proa that was designed for the race, and Brandon's Turnpoint Designs catamaran Felix. That was also a really, really cool boat. So there was all these crazy boats in the race. Sure. And we went out through one of the passes out of the Gulf Islands, saw some orcas right there.
Nice.
It went dark. It got really, really windy, and we sailed hard through the night. And the next morning we woke up and we were like 50 miles ahead.
Wow.
Yeah. And sailed hard up until made it through Seymour Narrows, right at slack.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And we knew that was the goal. It's if we could make slack, we were goners. And so, and it was a hard sail getting up there because it was really getting windy out of the north. And so it was upwind all the way through Seymour Narrows. And so at that point we were 12 hours ahead. And this was, noon the next day after starting, I think it was.
Yeah,
is that right?
2? Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, it was the evening of the second day of the race, and that we had made it through Seymour Narrows. And I think it's just 10, 15 miles up Johnstone. It makes a hard left turn to the kind of the northwest, and there's a anchorage there called Chatham, or I can't remember the name of the anchorage, but we stopped there for the night. We're there for 6 hours just to get some to eat and sleep, because the next day it was forecast to be gust blowing 40 down Johnstone.
Yeah.
And so we got up really early to go out with the tide, and hit it really hard the next day. And from there on, it was it was a lot easier after that, but that was the really, really hard day, was going up Johnstone Strait that third day of the race. And by that time, we knew that as long as we didn't break the boat, we were going to win. Mm-hmm. And so we sailed hard, but not too hard. And at one point we were going up. It was before Cape Caution. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of crazy underwater pillars that you kind of weave through. And I was navigating. Al was at the helm. It was the middle of the night. And we were kind of weaving through these things, and all of a sudden we hit something hard. Oh, no. And I was like, oh, shit, I just killed us. Mm-hmm. And we had hit a log, and luckily it just put a big dent. We couldn't pull our dagger board up anymore. But that was the worst thing that happened pretty much. And we lost our GoPro. That was the other big bummer, that we lost our GoPro during the race. And so
you're just talking about debris is what you hit.
We just hit a floating log. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. So, but no, it was a really crazy experience.
I bet.
All the people coming out to us while we were racing. Yeah. People would come deliver food to us, just we didn't know who they were. They were just we've been following along, and so planes cool. buzzing by and helicopters. Yeah. It was really, really, really cool.
Must have been wild.
It was wild. Yeah, and we did it in like almost exactly 5 days. So yeah.
What place?
First,
You won.
we were the
first.
We were the first to ever win the
Dude.
race of Alaska.
We have
I had no idea.
You're more celebrity than I thought.
I was waiting to hear
I know.
who overtook you.
Yeah.
And-
No.
well,
Yeah,
congratulations.
I've never
man.
met a winner of the R2AK.
I know, that's pretty awesome.
This is awesome, man.
Yeah, it
Just
was-
elevated this podcast.
Yeah.
yeah,
Winner, chicken dinner.
So what was the name of that boat?
Elsie Piddock.
Okay.
Yep.
Right
yeah, the
on.
daughter of the guy who we borrowed the boat from. Her name is Katie, and she was really into. There's a series of books called Elsie Piddock Who Skips, and so the boat skipped across the water. So
That
yeah,
is
we
so
won.
cool.
I think the next boat came in. It was like 60 hours later.
Man,
Yeah.
you guys really won.
Yeah. And have you done any other races since?
No, that was really the last big race I did.
Once you do that
Yeah,
and
you're
win,
like, yeah,
that's
I'm
a good
done.
way to go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's the
absolutely.
cruising life.
Yeah.
Well, and before you put in your hybrid electric propulsion system, I mean, you could.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you even?
I've thought about
I
figuring out
wonder.
some way to do like a cool pedal drive system from in the quarterbirds or something. I need like 8 people to drive that. But
hamsters.
Yeah,
Just get a bunch
exactly.
of hamsters.
yeah,
going.
totally. I think it'd be really cool to have the boat be the Grim Sweeper.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
Yeah,
names, are you
yes.
guys any closer? I saw the pulling out of the hat. You had
No.
some ideas. Something
No.
Dougma.
Dugnad.
Dugnog.
Yeah, it's Dugnar.
Yeah.
And that's
I like that name. It
I do
sounds cool.
too. I like it a
Is
lot.
that
It would be
Norse?
It is, yeah. It's kind of I think it's kind of a well, I don't know if it's an Old Norse word, but it's it means when a community gets together for like a newlywed couple, they help raise their barn or their house or something. So
Or
the
their
whole
boat.
community, or their boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
cool.
And so that's a name we've thought about. Spirit of the Woods.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, just because it's getting reborn in the woods. And another one is Leaving at Duracell.
Which it's never. I said known as Duracell. It was never formally named Duracell. It was
Yeah.
Spirit of.
I think it was the Spirit of Minnesota
Yeah.
when Mike sailed it, and then John renamed it the Northwest Spirit.
But it's been known as Duracell because of the
Yeah.
sponsor, and it looked like a giant battery on.
Yeah, the copper top.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was what I was thinking. Oh, you could name it Copper Top,
Yeah,
but then that's associated with copper.
yeah.
So
There's a
that's
crazy story that Roger told me that when they first launched the boat. Have you guys watched the movie about? It's called Coyote.
No,
it's
but I
about Mike
saw.
Plant.
No, but I know I want to.
You
see
should
it.
really
Yeah,
watch.
yeah,
It's
for
really
sure.
good.
Yeah.
But there's a scene of them launching the boat for the first time, and it has this copper colored deck. And Roger told this story about they took it out sailing for the first time, and it was like really sunny, and it just melted the deck. Yeah, they had to replace like half the deck because it got so hot.
Now that was done just for Duracell, the sponsor. Like they.
Yes.
And what did they? What's a copper deck? I mean, like literally.
It was just copper colored, and I can still pick
Paint
through some of the paint and find there's like this copper.
And so nobody had ever done
Layer
that
in there.
and had no idea what would happen in the sun. I guess.
I guess, yeah. I didn't know if they just didn't. Yeah.
Crazy story.
Yeah, it is.
Still finding.
Okay,
the piece of
I had
copper.
one more potential name just to throw at you.
All right.
Durable.
Durable. Yeah.
Hopefully, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I am building the whole thing out of plastic, and so that's kind of one of the
yeah,
no rotting.
yeah, for sure. Boy,
Yep.
tell me about it.
The owner of a 1946 Matthews. Yeah, tell me about it. Wood.
What is beautiful, but a lot of work.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned that obviously, I feel like you can't strictly schedule the building of a boat, a project of this size. Like you can't strictly schedule sailing. It's obviously conditions matter. Is it still your goal to launch this boat while you're 40?
No.
Yeah. You've
I
let go.
wish. Yeah, no. It I mean 2 or 3 years is what we're hoping.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
I have no
that's
idea.
boat building, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
working on a boat.
yep.
Um,
And the whole
Retrofitting.
and YouTube has really changed that. A couple other things have changed that too, but And depending on how well the channel does, if it does better,
Mhm.
you know, we've all seen Tally Ho and how he's able to hire people,
Sure.
and that expedites the project.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, if we can get to that point where I can hire somebody, that's the next goal for us. But it all depends on how well the YouTube channel does.
I would assume that because you've had the level of success that you've had so far with your YouTube channel, and it's been primarily doing all the plastic work, that you have a lot of potential for growth once you start getting into other projects. I mean, that's my feeling, and just being around
yeah.
YouTube for,
Yeah, that makes
15,
sense.
20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to see that.
Yeah.
I hope you explode in growth.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, I feel like when like I mentioned, I follow a couple other channels, Tally Ho included, of projects, boats being built that have incredible history, or I'm really, I connect with the person or the people that are doing the project. And I'm very thankful that I found your guys' channel.
No, thank you.
Since we've started the podcast, Darren kept bringing up your boat and your project. And so it was always kind of on my periphery of kind of understanding what it was, but really taking the deep dive into everything you're doing. You guys are awesome. Totally great couple to support. The content that you're creating is very engaging. And what I do like about it is it's fun to watch. Your editing has definitely gotten better over 2 years, and you're making a lot of great videos. It's engaging and it's educational, and you guys do have really good personality. So I do recommend everybody check out the Duracell Project on YouTube.
And that, I gotta say, that's all Janneke. Like, she does all the editing and filming and everything, and she's like, this is as much a project of hers as it is for mine. Like, we could not do this without each other putting in as much effort as
She's
she
doing
does.
a great job.
I know.
You guys make a great team.
Interesting. Yeah. And there's there's a whole slew of YouTube channels in regards to boats and boating and boat building and so forth. And they range from, I don't want to insult anybody, but from kind of poorly done videos, but the subject matter is still interesting, to really, really slick productions. And what I like that Yanni's done is she's kept it, it's really well done, but it's still real. There's still,
it's personal.
It's a very organic element to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably partly, how you come across on screen, but the project and her editing is really good.
It's really important to us that we are ourselves, and we're not trying to manufacture anything in our videos. And so, but yeah, she does a really beautiful job, like, putting it together, and she's a great writer. And so I think that translates really well to, telling a story.
Yeah.
And so, and she really enjoys it too. So, it's just, we just feel really lucky that it's all kind of aligns that way, that she enjoys it as much as she does, and she's as good at it as she is. And so
she's also a good speaker.
Yeah.
She's, I do a lot of voice acting and voice over work in my field. And I noticed every time she would narrate a video, she's really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She nails it. And, but yeah, you guys make a great team.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to now having another channel that I'm addicted to and living vicariously through.
Yeah.
But you guys do a great job and make a great team. And you have, like Darren said earlier, I think whatever that it thing is that makes somebody watchable as compared to not as watchable. So congratulations on, I mean, you've achieved a lot in just a little over 2 years. Your numbers are amazing. So again, and based on that, if nothing else, based on his numbers, again, I'm encouraging you all to go check it out. It's very entertaining, and you can get in there while it's still growing. And
there's so much left.
There's so much left, and you can become a part of the support network. Again, Darren and I very much believe in the boating community. That's a big aspect of the reason why we do the podcast and why we love everything about boats. And being able to support fellow boaters is, I think, a very worthwhile cause. And hopefully you'll find that out as well when you check out their YouTube channel. So again, you can find them on YouTube at the Duracell Project, but also Facebook and Patreon at the Duracell Project, and Instagram at _Duracell_project. Is there anything else that you'd like to direct people to? There's a lot of articles out there on what you guys are doing, all the magazines that I mentioned, I'm sure more. But is there anything that you would like to point out specifically?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think you covered it all. We kind of stick strictly to YouTube. We're not very good at Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that.
Well, you're great at YouTube, so
Thank you.
You have those skills.
I think it's stay tuned.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's the key.
There's lots to come. Yeah.
Do you have a preference when people are wanting to support your project? I noticed you had like PayPal and Venmo and then Patreon. Where if somebody wants to support what you guys are doing, which I know some of you are going to want to do, should they go to Patreon? Is that the best way to support you, or
they can do it however they want to? You know, beggars can't be choosers.
Sure,
but I would say that if you become a Patreon member, then you don't have to watch ads. On our Patreon page, and so that's the only thing. But yeah, we encourage, or however you want to support us, we're open to it. So
excellent.
Well, it is a good cause, and can't wait to see more steps of the project. Boy, what I love seeing you build the rooms. I love the staterooms and the way you designed it. And yeah, I know that there's definitely various stages in the upcoming sections of the build that I'm going to be very excited about.
Yeah.
So I'll be staying tuned for sure.
Yeah.
So, Matt, thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
thank you.
Appreciate it.
It was nice to meet you guys.
Likewise, and we hope we can have you back. Maybe
there you go.
The next big stage or something like that.
Yeah. I'm around.
Good. Yeah. We're kind of neighbors.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Excellent.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.